A taky chcou doksnout kostel T1 CEO. Co? Jaký kostel? Že oni říkají o T1, že jsou prostě, že je to kult, který bere hráče jen na základě jejich duchovního vyznání. Koneční fanoušci jsou trochu jinde, no. Podělalo jim to business a mentál všech hráčů v T1 a Zeuse. Zeus a jeho rodina byly dokonce nějak šikanovaní jako komunitou lolka poslední 4 měsíce. Ty vole. Drama se Zeusem pokračuje. Konečně se dozvíme, jak to bylo.
I covered one of the biggest League of Legends off-season scandals in great depth, one that was going to cost Korean powerhouse T1 in the millions of revenue. These 2 videos right here are in the description if you're a bit behind what's going on, but I'll provide a brief summary here as well before getting into the ton of new information and developments that have since happened. In 2024, T1 won their second Worlds tournament in 2 years. As the underdog of the tournament, coming in to compete off the back of a 4th seed run.
A já jsem jen vsadil 2 kila, když na ně byl kurz 11 a z těch 2 kil jsem vyhrál 2200. Dobrý, že?
In the LCK, they were mostly disregarded as a realistic contender for the World's trophy, especially given the current form of the top seed Gen G, Hanwha Life, BLG and Top Esports. But in an absolute miracle run led by some insane individual plays by eventual tournament MVP Faker, T1 took the cup in a 5-game series versus BLG.
Plus a Ziggs. The reason why this is such a good pairing as
Whoa.
the arrow goes wide, but Faker's still here.
Take a look at that flank. We'll see the way to quickness from on guess. Charm flashes in, finds 2. Equalizer on the back line as well. As Faker is not off this earth. He finds the engage.
Ano, to jsme sledovali live všichni.
Everything T1 were looking for. A bit more.
A fakt, že doslova Faker, který je starý jak já, tak to tam prostě potal to finále, že úplně. Věk prostě nic neznamená ve sportu. Aspoň do 30 teda, ne? Tady byl ten prapodivný teleport do toho Jacksona, to si pamatuju. Tady jim to actually dojebal.
Now, this is all relevant information to put value on Zeus, the then T1 top laner. While he comparatively...
Jde vlastně o to, že prostě Zeus, co byl z T1, že jo, i tyhle ty Worlds, tak oni ho nějakou náhodou nebo nějakým nedorozuměním ho prostě prodali do jiného týmu, no. A snažili se to nějak vyřešit, aby byl u nich zpátky, ale už se to asi nestane, už se to asi nenapraví.
Underperformed in Worlds 2024 compared to his 2023 MVP performance, Zeus entered 2025 signing discussions as one of, if not the most coveted player of the draft, displaying insane consistency and carry potential, even when weak-sided, which he continues to do today, might I add. So T1 has the most wanted player, and off the back of a Worlds loss, a Worlds win, and a Worlds underdog story, all under the Zeus owner Faker, Guma and Keria, or Zeto FGK roster, 2025 was shaping up to be T1's most profitable year yet. The Zeto FGK dynasty was well established, and T1 had even pre-ordered Zeto FGK merch with quantities costing in the millions of Korean won for the 2025 season to come. Then T1 made roster announcements, having secured fake...
Oni už zaplatili prostě merch na těch 5 hráčů, jako za hodně peněz, a teď to hráče nějak volem prodali ještě, vole.
...until the end of 2025, and Keria, Guma and Owner on 1 or 2 year contracts. But Zeus was never announced, and the public and T1 community was getting nervous. Then T1's final roster announcement for their top laner finally came, but it was Doran.
And they're scared of Bin getting jacked.
Doran, no a všichni ukazovali hnedka potom, co vyměnili Dorana za Zeuse do T1, tak všichni ukazovali ten klip všude, že? To je tohle to.
What the f was that? What did he just do?
Shockingly, Zeus had been traded to Hanwha Life, and T1 and the fans watched as the Zeto FGK brand was reduced to ash. How could such a high-value deal have gone so wrong? With such a beloved T1 and Zeus under fire, public scrutiny was at a high and fingers were being pointed. Shortly after, in an AMA, T1 CEO Joe Marsh said the play, which is Zeus's agency, made no counter-offers, making negotiations difficult, that the agency was prioritizing personal gain over long-term development of the player, and that although the agency later apologized, it lacked sincerity. There was also talks of the play purposely stalling negotiations so the price of Zeus would go up, as there were becoming fewer and fewer good tops on the market. Alongside that, the play was also said to have dealt in shady ways before. To these allegations and statements, the play only
Já jsem to asi úplně zapomněl, kámo, co tam bylo, vole, špatně s tím dílem, nebo co. Pamatuju si to, že ho určitě prodat nechtěli, ale stalo se tak, no.
He responded with, quote, "We have filed with the Esports Commission and will wait for an outcome before responding," which at the time kind of painted a pretty guilty picture. Anyway, fast forward to today and this article on Invin came out, a reputable Korean blog. It was not Zeus who broke the beautiful parting, which...
Nebyla to chyba Zeuse.
Parting, which is probably some translation error. But I digress. Now, before we jump into the Invin article, I just thought I'd say that if you're enjoying the video and appreciate being kept up to speed,
už mám subscribe, brácho. Tady more.
Consider subscribing
Like hodím.
to the channel. I work really hard on these videos and your support means more than you know. Plus, you can always change your mind later. Thank you in advance. Since all this happened in November, T1 had portrayed that Zeus and the play had essentially ruined Zeto FGK, and even Zeus's family was copping hate. But this new article on Invin kind of paints the opposite picture, and has word from the play CEO Kang Byung-jun. Some parts of it saying it was actually lack of trying from T1 that caused the negotiations to turn out the way they did. It also contradicts some of Joe Marsh's statements. Firstly, an excerpt from Zeus's contract was shared, stating that the play had a 0% commission, meaning no matter how much Zeus was signed for, his agency received nothing. And allegedly, T1 knew this, and it also contradicts Joe Marsh saying that the agency was prioritizing financial gain over what was best for the player, because obviously they received nothing. The play
Takže prioritizovali výdělek nad tím, aby získali toho hráče?
CEO said their business model actually focuses more on sponsorships and marketing rather than signing commission, meaning it was actually probably better to stay with T1 because of the Zeto FGK brand being so popular. In Joe's AMA, he shared regret that the proposal and counteroffer were not properly made, insinuating that the play had not followed typical procedure. But in the Invin article, it says, after checking the contents of the messenger conversation, it was found that the play made a counteroffer to T1 during the free agency period and continuously communicated with the T1 negotiation manager and exchanged proposals. However, the play did not make a counteroffer during the primary negotiation stage. The play CEO, Kang Byung-jun, explained the reason as, quote, "It is difficult to say that T1's initial proposal was made to a player who contributed to winning Worlds twice. I think that means the value of the proposal, but anyway. We decided that it would be difficult to determine Zeus's market value based on T1's proposal alone during the initial negotiation phase. We wanted to have Zeus's value evaluated in the FA market, and this was intended to set a benchmark to determine whether T1's proposal was appropriate."
Kámo, jsem s tom ztracený nějak. Zase tak jak minule. Já nevím, to je asi automaticky přeložený z korejštiny do angličtiny a teď to ještě se to snažím jako já z toho nějak pochopit, co nejde.
So contrary to what was previously stated by T1, it was also confirmed through the messenger records that Zeus did speak to the T1 negotiator, but the differences between the two sides were not narrowed and eventually broke down. But the main point of friction in this whole exchange was the 3 PM deadline that was set on November 19th. The community portrayed Zeus as having rejected a direct meeting proposal and set the time as a personal deadline. This was also not the truth. Hanwha was actually the setter of the deadline, and they had made that to the play, as top laners were scarce and they had limited options that were lessening as time went on. Quote, "The deadline was important. If the play and Zeus didn't respond by 3 PM, the deal with Hanwha Life could fall through, and Zeus might be forced to negotiate only with T1.
Takže Hanwha dala nějaký jako podpásový, vole, deadline, nebo něco takového, kvůli tomu se to dojebalo?
They needed to move quickly if Zeus declined so that they could pursue other players. From T1's perspective, until 2:59 PM, they were competing with Hanwha, but at 3:01 PM, that competition would disappear, giving T1 a stronger bargaining position. But Mr. Byung-jun, CEO of the play, clarified it was actually T1 who first presented a deadline-style offer. At 1:32 PM, T1's negotiation rep messaged the play saying it was their, quote, final offer and that their, quote, patience was running thin. Now, while this offer was well before 3 PM, the two sides had still failed to agree due to differences in contract terms. So, at 2:35 PM, T1's rep requested an in-person meeting and asked for an address. However, the play responded by referring to Hanwha's 3 PM deadline and requested a revised offer electronically instead. Now, it's really important to note that if they did accept the meeting, there is no way a resolution would have been reached by 3 PM, and they would have missed Hanwha's deadline, which again would give T1 the upper hand.
Že se jako nějak sešli na to v 1:30 ráno. No, v 1:30 odpoledne asi a ta deadline byla jako do 3 hodin odpoledne nebo něco takového. Chápu to, dobře?
In the year prior, an LPL team
Čete, vy to chápete?
from China was close to signing Zeus, but T1's GM Zhang Ho Yun and coach Komar personally visited Zeus's home and convinced him to stay. Following all this, Zeus ended up having a phone call with T1 and asked Hanwha to extend their deadline by 30 minutes, but it would still not be enough to resolve the contractual differences, and so Zeus signed with Hanwha. Again, all this information is from the perspective of the play, and what they describe just sounds like a failure from T1 to meet conditions. Despite all this though, Zeus, the T1 rep, and T1 COO An Woon-ki were said to have parted on good terms. Kang added, closing all this, that baseless and malicious tampering allegations have caused ongoing damage to the player that affected his mental well-being and reputation. Instead of continuously addressing rumours as they appeared, the play thought it was best to wait for an official reply from the Esports Commission for an accurate delivery of information and to protect Zeus. So with facts coming out and disproving a lot of what Joe Marsh had said, more new information and statements came to light. The first was from T1, saying Joe Marsh's statements about the play were, quote, merely an opinion, and that he had made them without knowing the play were receiving no commission. Which is just, what? It's so odd to me that once proof actually comes out about the player receiving no commission, then T1 go against Joe's statements? Confusing. As I said before, Zeus and the T1 rep and the higher-ups left on good terms, but in Joe's AMA following the departure of Zeus, he made it seem not so and painted the play to be the bad guys and the causation for T1 and Zeus dissolving, all for the play receiving more money, which again was proven not to be the case. With all this coming out and Joe's defamatory statements being kind of rescinded or changed to protect T1 by T1, the T1 community have been rampant in protest against T1 and their recent decisions. But this also links back to another recent debacle of T1 electing to choose starting ADC Gumayusi over Smash, who has better recent gameplay metrics. They said that Joe chose Gumayusi over Smash just due to his connection to him winning Worlds twice. Or a sentiment.
No, to se teďka taky řešilo dost, že místo Gumayushiho hrál Smash, jo, který byl teď v akademce, a ten Smash hraje líp než Guma prej aktuálně. Akorát, že tam dali Gumu zpátky kvůli fanouškům, že to chtěli fanoušci prostě. I když Guma hraje hůř, tak ho tam prostě dali kvůli tomu, no.
Quote, 5,784 T1 fans union. Joint statement condemning CEO's unfair intervention. On Sunday, March 24th, 2025 at 10 o'clock, the T1 Fan Alliance of 5,874 people condemned CEO Joe Marsh for damaging the spirit of the sport and released the following official statement, which was accompanied by this wall of text. I'm not going to read it all out for you, it's my job to summarize, so this is what it says. The T1 fan community condemns CEO Joe Marsh's interference in team management, which undermines the authority of the coaching staff and damages the fairness of professional sports. On March 19th, 2025, the CEO admitted to influencing player selection and team decisions, which goes against the principles of fair competition and coaching autonomy. The fans particularly criticised Marsh's justification for starting player Gumayusi based on emotional reasoning, rather than performance metrics. This behaviour contradicts the values of T1, a team with rich history, and damages its reputation. They also then demanded that 1. Joe apologise for inappropriately infringing on player selection and resign immediately. 2. T1 must establish and transparently disclose internal policies to ensure the autonomy of player selection. And 3. T1 must develop measures to prevent recurrence of this same situation and restore the faith of fans. Oh, and also the trucks are back, with this one being cited essentially saying that the SKT CEO is corrupt and must resign. My translations seemed a bit sketchy of the truck though, so if anyone wants to share what it says in the comments below, I'll pin it. I did find one interesting comment
in
my research for this video though from T1 Yumbe in regard to the truck. Now I would summarize this, but every part of this comment is important. This post is maliciously translated. The trucks were sent by T1 support minor gallery, the fans who were ostracized by every Korean LoL community. They are a community made solely to hate on Gumayusi. They are the community that sent funeral wreaths to T1 HQ wishing death on Gumayusi, and they've also sent the protest trucks. Recently, they
hejtři Gumayushiho poslali prostě ten nákladákem, aby tam jako stál s tím nápisem.
They have doxed the church that Gumayusi's family goes to. They are
doxnuli kostel, do kterého chodí Gumayushiho rodina.
Also trying to dox T1 COO's.
A taky chcou doxnout kostel T1 CEO? Co? Jaký kostel? Co s kostelem?
Church. They are the community that is making rumors that T1 hires people based on their religion and that they are basically a cult. And part of the people who signed the petition are saying
že oni říkají o T1, že jsou prostě, že je to kult, který bere hráče jen na základě jejich jako duchovního vyznání.
Saying that they did not know T1 support gallery was going to go this far. That if they knew they would have, they wouldn't have signed. These are not T1 fans and never were. This community has wished and prayed T1 to lose at 2024 Worlds against Genji and BLG. This is the community that kept believing Ruler signed with T1 despite everyone saying Ruler is going back to Gen G. They will rally behind any ADC as long as they are not Gumayusi. Again, these are not T1 fans and this post was maliciously translated. I didn't know any of this info. The level of the fans in Korea is just on another level. Maybe I need to dig a bit deeper. Following all this though, there are expected to be further responses from T1.
Korejští fanoušci jsou trochu jinde, no.
So to keep up with those, because you can be damn sure I'll be making a video on it, be sure to subscribe to not miss out. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in another video very soon.
Ty vole, já nevím, jestli to pochopil úplně, no. T1 simply overplayed their cards. Se vším tím merchem a kontraktama, který měli loknutý, takže nešli hard a nedali Zeusovi lepší kontrakt. Takže oni prostě chtěli jako ušetřit na tom nějak, nebo oni prostě na tom Zeusovi chtěli ušetřit a chtěli mu dát o tolik lepší jako smlouvu asi, nebo o tolik lepší prachy si myslím, tomu Zeusovi. Tak jako by vyčkávali až moc dlouho, nebo nevím. Až jim to nakonec jako uteklo prostě, Adam. Podělali to prostě asi T1, no. Podělalo jim to business a mental všech hráčů v T1 a Zeuse. No jako jo, no. Jako jo, a co tam teďka mají za shitstorm, že? Že první nabídka Zeusovi byla dokonce jako nižší, jo. The reduction. Že Zeus a jeho rodina byly dokonce nějak šikanovaní jako komunitou, vole, lolka. Poslední 4 měsíce. Ty vole. Takže ani za nic nemůže ten Zeus, že jo, to o něm si vyjednávají prostě 2 organizace, kdo si ho veme, v podstatě. Text používá mnoho korejského slangu, který se nepřekládá příliš dobře, takže je těžké poskytnout přesný doslovný překlad. No, to by asi to, proč to tady furt jako pořádně nechápu, no, ale vlastně už to asi trochu chápu, no. Nikdo opravdu nechtěl v Dorana jako v T1, no, to je asi jasný. T1 negotiator odmítl vyjednávat o délce kontraktu asi, nebo nechtěli asi prodloužit, nebo co, no. Protože prostě chtěl jakoby asi lepší deal pro T1, nechtěli mu tolik zaplatit tomu Zeusovi prostě, no. Tak to nějak natahovali ty T1. Prostě byli greedy, no. A natahovali to až moc. Nějak, nevím. To nepochopení lidí vězí v tom, že Zeus chtěl víc peněz. Prostě chtěli mu dát míň, poslali prostě vyjednávání o tom, no. Dojebali to. Chtěli asi mu dát, nechtěli prostě dávat tolik prachu, no, na něm.